to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Today, our show is sponsored by Revel Woods, and I'm happy to say that Revel Woods is also a sponsor of LuAnn Live. That's right, LuAnn Live is right around the corner, February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So I hope that you're planning to join us. Go to LuAnnLive.com to see all of the information, all of the workshops that we've got planned, all of the conversations that we've got planned, and see the different levels of the tickets that are available. One thing I want to let you know is you may not have heard yet that we have added a Where Are They Now segment. That's right. We are going to have some guests from the past 5 years of the podcast come on and tell us where are they now. These will be little 25, 30-minute segments inserted in between all of the other panels that we're doing. It's insane how much content we're packing into this event. And so, for example, I have Corey Damon Jenkins, who's included for a Where Are They Now segment. I have Ashley Esprit. If you remember, she was a student interior designer way back in the beginning of the podcast. Can't wait to let you know and share with you where she is now. We have Deborah Damari from vegandesign.org, and cannot wait to tell you all the things that she's created in her business. And we also have Kristen Scott Thomas. If you remember on the show, she explained to us how she just literally shut down her Instagram that had, tens of thousands of followers. And she's just said, this is not serving me the way this is. It's not what I want to do, and closed it down. So it will be so exciting and fun to learn where each of these individuals are in their career since they were first on the show. We'll put their original show episodes in the show notes for this podcast. Okay. All right. So go to LuAnnLive.com. Please, I want to see you there. This is a chance to not only get the information that we share on the podcast, but to be a part of the conversation. And so that you can come to this and ask the questions of any of my 9 panelists and designer co-panelists, but also of these Where Are They Now guests, all right? Okay, so today's show, if you remember, back in 2018, John Dupra, who is the co-founder and director of marketing for Revel Woods, joined us on episode 329, and he introduced to us a fresh, new, forward-thinking way of specifying hardwood flooring. And John also introduced Vinny and myself to one of the most special brands his company represents, which is American OEM. Ali Finkel, the executive vice president of American OEM, actually hosted us at their Nashville factory. My Doma Studio co-sponsored this event with Revel Woods and OEM. And Ali joined us for episode 452, and she shared the story of their production facility located in a penitentiary. It's an amazing story, and I highly encourage you, if you missed it, to go back and listen to episode 452. Now, wood flooring is in John's blood. John's father graduated from 24 years of being a wood flooring installer and finisher to open his own wholesale wood flooring distribution company in Rochester, New York. John, of course, grew up in the family business, and then, as he is known to do, he came up with an innovative idea that revolved around making flooring a lucrative product for you, the interior designer, for you to include in the products that you specify and that you actually sell to your client, as opposed to it being specified and sold to your clients by others. Okay? So, can you add wood flooring to your bag of tricks? I believe it's feasible, and John definitely believes it is. And through this conversation, I hope that you see your path, because the ultimate goal is for you to add every product mix that's possible for you so that you can increase your profits in your design firm. So let's hear what John has to say. Hi, John. Thanks so much for coming back to A Well-Designed Business.
Hi, LuAnn. Thank you for having me back. I have been anxiously awaiting this. What was it? 2 years? 2.5 years?
Yes, it is. It's 2.5 years. And it's funny because, well, first of all, episode 329, and we're in the 600s now. And on one hand, John, of course, you and myself and Vinny, we've become great friends with you and your family. And on one hand, it feels like a minute ago that we met, but on the other hand, it feels like 10 years ago that we met, right?
I looked up the date of our last recording, and I was like, it was only 2.5 years. It feels like 10. I was going to say that exact same thing.
Of course, you would have been in high school or college or something.
I'm 37 going on 73.
Okay.
I had two back surgeries in the last 18 months, so I don't know. I look like I'm 15, but I feel like I'm much, much, much older.
I know it's been a lot for you with that, but I have to say it's been. I've said this story 1,000 times how we first talked, and I literally called Vinny, and I was like, I just met a guy who is got a really good thing on his hands, and I think you're gonna love knowing about it. And of course, when Vinny met you that first time when you did that trip with My Doma Studio, you sponsored the trip to Nashville, and we got to go see Allie set up at OEM there, right? And Vinny that's when he was like all about John and Revel Woods and everything like that. So it's been a great friendship, and it's all based in the fact that we have been so impressed with Revel Woods and what you personally are doing yourself as a human person, your ideas, your innovations that you've brought to the wood flooring industry, and then, of course, by extension, your company, Revel Woods, and the way you're changing hardwood floor specifying for interior designers, trying to put that into their realm so that they can earn money on it. And that was the first hook. It's like, I have a way for interior designers to make more money. And I'm like, I'm listening. And so since then, I've learned all the ways. We're going to review some of them, but I would love for you to tell us some of the growth and the changes and the innovations and the ideas that you have really created and experienced since we did talk the last time 2.5 years ago on the podcast, John.
I would love to too. I think I'm going to tell that story that you sort of alluded to from my perspective, because I think it's a good one.
Okay.
So 2.5 years ago, we knew when we built this, we had something kind of cool, but we also knew that because we're experts in the flooring industry, so we know flooring inside and out. And we knew there was an opportunity to create an entirely new sales channel with the interior design industry. But the issue we had back then was that, and I'm being honest now, we didn't really understand the interior design industry. So when I talked to you, I kind of cold called you, and you were gracious enough to talk to me. I mean, you've grown so much in the last few years. I wonder if you'd even take that call today. But,
I'd let Lisa schedule it, though. I would.
Yeah, I'm really glad you did, though, because this whole thing has been transformative. And so I remember, when we talked about this, we had this kind of idea. And the problem when you do something nobody's really done before is that you get half of it wrong, right? But you just don't know which half until you get out there, and you really have to, you almost like everybody tries to scale too quickly. And we really tried to avoid that because we knew, look, there's issues with this process. We don't understand the design trade well enough yet. So let's stay really small so we can be nimble. So if somebody does have an issue with something that we didn't foresee, we're going to be able to step right in and fix it so that it's still not going to be a bad experience, hopefully. So we had a lot of that early on, but I remember when we had that conversation, we understood flooring, we understood the flooring industry, we understood the mechanics of it, but I didn't really know the design industry very well. And I knew that I needed to get out there and kind of live amongst, and this isn't just true for us, true for every business, right? You need to understand your customers' pain points. You need to know what their hopes and dreams are and what they're trying to do so that you're solving a real problem for them. It's not just about making me money, but it's about solving an issue for designers. It's about, how to make more money on this project, how to have more control over your project, how to be more valuable to your clients, all the stuff we wanted to provide. But in order to do that, we needed to understand them better. And so I was just looking for opportunities to kind of break in. And I remember shortly after our first conversation, you called me, kind of out of the blue. I was surprised and delighted, and you said you think it was the first Power Talk Friday
It was. That's right. I didn't
person.
know where you were going with this story, but yes.
Yeah, now you know where I'm going. So you were like, look, I'm thinking of doing this. At that point, I don't even think the whole idea was even fleshed out. Like, you were still kind of noodling on how do I want to present this and so you were kind of pitching it to me and like, this is what it's going to be. And you were talking about the dinner and how it's going to be presented. And I'm thinking that's all well and good. But I remember saying like, well, here's what I want. After the dinner, that's all great. And it was great. And I want to talk about that too. But can I just follow you around for like a day? Like I'll stay like behind you, like I won't get in the way. Can you introduce me to some people? Because I knew if I was going to amble aimlessly around a furniture market, maybe I'd get a couple things done. But if I was going to amble aimlessly around a furniture market 6 feet behind LuAnn Nigera, it was going to go much better for me. And you were like, what? That's it? Yeah, fine, sure. It's all good. So I was like, I'm in. And, so I remember going out to Vegas, and I had to fly out of Buffalo at like 6:30 in the morning Eastern time. So I'm there like 8 o'clock Vegas time, of sharing an Uber with some young ladies who appeared to have just gotten off of work, and it was very authentic. And I didn't know what to do for the day. Like the dinner wasn't until 8 o'clock that night. And so I ended up spending time getting a few beverages and playing the slot machines, I think with Heather Gillette from Designer Inc. And so we hadn't met at that point. So I get to this, I hope it's okay that I'm telling this story, but I get to this steakhouse, wonderful, and for the dinner after the Power Talk Friday. And that dinner, by the way, it was better than what you said it was going to be. There were people I met there that I'm still in relationship with. That one of the designers there, actually, we flew out to Montreal earlier this year to help us design a flooring line. That was transformative. But I remember this gentleman, a little older than me, approaches me, kind of gives me this sidelong look, and then in this thick Jersey accent goes, "You the flooring guy?" And I was like, "Who's asking? Do I owe you money?" No, but he goes, "If what you built does what you say it does, it's brilliant." And I was like, "Yes, I am." So that was my first conversation with the Vin man. We talk every week. We've been fabulous friends since then. But that was transformative. That whole experience, that was all after our last conference. So that's what kicked off. It has just been an enormous change in the whole way we functioned. We since then, so it's a whole different ball game now. What was your original question?
Well, I'm just enjoying the memory lane so much. It really was. It was so much fun. That was the very first Power Talk Friday tour event. And I do remember you're coming around with me for Las Vegas market for the next 3 days. And of course, Sarah Daniele it was me, you, and Sarah Daniele. And I remember Gina was there, Lori Mia was there, Gina McCurtney was there.
Yeah, I think Nancy Ganzikoffer was
Nancy
there.
Ganzikoffer. I mean, I'm going to miss names, but we all sort of like hung out and watched went to the different panel discussions and everything. And then that fall, you came to High Point and did the same thing. You're like, and I remember you called me up. You said, "Are you going to High Point?" I'm like, "Yes." And "Can I follow you around High Point too?" I'm like, "Come on, let's go." You know me. I love a party, and if I have people with me all day long, that's a built-in party. I'm like about it all day long.
That was and it was really, I mean, like I said, it was transformative for us, because what that allowed us to do, and this is where it benefited the designers that much more. I mean, as much as it was an enormous amount of fun, and that has been the thing I miss the most during this pandemic. I mean, missing family's okay too, I guess, but I really miss the party. But that allowed us to really get in and talk with designers and say, look, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're doing it. And a lot of people had some great suggestions, like, and listening. We did a lot of listening in that time as to, how does this work for you? Like what didn't work for you, or what is the relationship? What has that been like with working with the builder or the contractor, or what are you hearing? And that allowed us to really kind of dig deep and morph into something to say, look, we are an ally to designers. That is our primary business and secondary business models on this. We really do believe the flooring industry is ripe for disruption. And the way that that's going to be done is through the interior designers. And I can get into the mechanics of that if you want and how that's kind of changed. But that's the overall goal of what we're trying to do is if a designer has flooring as part of their project, that they're the ones responsible for profiting on that. They're doing the selection and they're doing they don't even have to do the purchasing because that's one of the pain points we ironed out, but it's very customizable based on what you need for that specific project. But the idea is that's you as a designer, that's going through you. And I don't know how you would cede that control, right? It's such a huge part of the visual of any space.
Well, and it's yes and no. So if I play devil's advocate for the interior designer in this conversation, because I think that's what'll be valuable. So as I come up with the various things that I think are the obstacles, as you can peel them back and explain the go around for it, that will be helpful. So you
Yes,
just
let's do
said,
that.
yes, right? So you just said something that on face value seems so logical. Why would an interior designer not be the one to specify the hardwood floor when it is such a dominant element in the room? For instance, it's the timing and how many times a home is being built. The architect has been hired, the builder has been hired, maybe the foundation is laid, and now the designer is brought into the process. But probably at that point, the builder has ordered the same hardwood flooring that he's ordered for every house he's ever or she's ever done. And they just say to the homeowner and the designer, here's your 2.5. Maybe the homeowner gets the choice of 2.5 plank or 4.5 plank or whatever it is,
Yeah,
right?
there's like typically there's like 6 or 8 colors that are their standard.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we work with a lot of builders, so I totally understand this process.
So that's the thing. So let's address that first off, because there's other things, but this is the big, I think, the big stick point. So how, if I'm a designer and I'm typically working with the builder, and that's been our MO, we've done 5, 6, 8, 10 projects together, whatever it is, but I'm not picking that any more than I'm picking the quality and the manufacturer of the siding he's going to use. I'm simply picking the color for my client. Is there a workaround on that, John?
So that is, and I love that you started with one of the more complicated questions because unfortunately, it's a simple question with a complex answer. And a lot of times it does depend. So there is, right? But not, it can depend on the builder itself. So it also depends a little bit on the relationship. So there is going to be situations where something has been pre-selected, it's locked in, and the designer is not going to be able to put a steel toe boot on and kick that door down. And it's important to understand that too, that there's going to be situations where it's like, this is already done. If you're coming in and designing an existing space and somebody says, look, this is my grandmother's piano and it's not moving, right?
Right.
Well, you're not moving the piano. So there is situations like that. It's not as common. So there's 2 different types of projects that require new flooring. There's new construction, which is what we're talking about right now. And then there's also remodeling. So we'll get into remodeling next, but let's focus on your question with new construction. So with new construction, it sometimes can depend on the relationship with the builder. It can depend on when the designer is brought in. If you've done 6 or 8 projects with that builder and you have that relationship, it's not outside of the spectrum to go to the builder and say, look, we can do better with flooring here. I've got someone we'll connect you to. I mean, we'll work with the builders, we'll work with the designers, we work with the contractors. Our conduit is the designer. So if we're going to work with your builder, it is through you. That we will deal with them directly, but the idea is you always have, whenever there's multiple people in this relationship, you have to have kind of a leader in that. In our case, it's the designer. So we can discuss with you, look, we're going to work with your builder. Maybe they're going to buy it directly, right? So you're going to get a percentage of that because it's effectively you speccing this product. Or, we can work out whatever that needs to be. So we can get to where we can find a product line that works with the budget for that builder, for you, for your client. And we can even have it put into their regular rotation if they're open to it. That's actually, as a designer, that's a huge value add to that builder because it's like, hey, I'm bringing you some stuff you otherwise weren't even aware of. I'm handling a lot of the logistics of it for you. That would be a huge, I know a lot of builders that would be grateful to have that taken off their plate. So that's one possible way around that. The other thing too is, just understanding where that budgetary item is and what the client's looking for. And the client's like, look, maybe I don't want 2.25 select grade red oak, in this. I want something wider. I want something more fashionable. I want something a little more timeless, whatever it is, right? And then having that, working with the builder in that sense too, and saying, hey, this is, because nobody wants to build or create a product for somebody they're not happy with. So, if they're not going to be happy with these options, and making sure they understand that there's other stuff out there. So there's a lot of ways to approach that, and we can always work with you directly if you're in that situation on what we think will be best for you specifically. But that's one example, maybe
So
one and a
my
half examples.
yeah, so my question in there is that what I don't understand is I don't under like so if I have had two or three builds with this builder, I see now the next, I go up to him and I say, or her, and I say, hey, next project would love to be included in the process on the wood floor as opposed to, getting this delivered, this thing delivered to me as something I work with. But the question is, what is you said there's a benefit to the builder. What is the benefit to the builder? Because if I don't know what that is, I can't sell it to the builder, because my brain as a salesperson I'm thinking to myself, John, why would he let me spec it if he's making the money on it now?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So the benefit, and this, I actually learned this answer from a builder, because I went and asked them. So
Okay.
as part of our research process, and it depends. You could be working with somebody, this is all personality driven in some cases. So you could be working with somebody who's just totally obstinate and is like, look, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I don't care if they even design this space at all. I'm going to build them a rectangle, and you can put whatever in there you want. I don't care. Don't talk to me again. Right? Okay.
Right.
Well, maybe you're working with somebody like that. In that case, I don't know. We're getting
Yeah,
into
that's
psychology, probably
right.
more than sales at that point. But more often than not, if you're saying, look, there's some other products available to you and it doesn't have to be binary as far as who benefits. And that's one of the things that we try to work with too, because maybe if in that specific situation, your percentages you're making on the flooring might be a little less, because you're sharing it with the builder, and we'll figure out where we need to be with product and margins and everything to make sure that everybody can be happy. So it might be a little less, but it's going to be more than nothing, which is what you currently have. So in that specific scenario, and that is one of the most difficult scenarios for designers. So it
Right.
just gets easier from here. But in that scenario, you're saying, look, I'm bringing you some product. You're still making money on it. I'm giving you some new options. You're going to have a better result. Your home's going to look better because you're now having the designer's going to be aware of products, finishes, lighting fixtures, things that the builders usually aren't aware of. Like builders kind of get into grooves. And I'm totally generalizing here, by the way, because
Hmm.
this is not true for everybody. Everything I say is basically not true for everybody. But as a general rule, a lot of times they'll get into grooves, and they're not really looking for, oh, what's the latest trend in light fixtures, or they do that because they have to, right? Because they don't want to keep building the same home they built in the 1970s. Actually, they would if they were allowed to,
Right.
but people don't want that, right? They're looking at whatever the latest is in light. And I'm not a lighting specialist, so I'm not going to even pretend to give you examples, but the whatever, or window treatments, or siding, or whatever it is, right? Stonework, there's latest trends and what people are wanting in that. And if a designer is saying, look, I'm on top of this for you, I'm going to tell you, like, this is what we're looking for, and if your issue is just where to get it and how much it's going to cost and how to work into the budget, we're going to work on all that. But the builders, a lot of times, if they don't have designers on staff, they're not going to be aware of that. They're not really as interested in what the latest lighting trends or flooring trends are.
So let me clarify something. So what we're saying is the benefit to the builder is specifically for the builder who's interested in the outcome and maybe not, worried or not the builder who doesn't want to just put out a cookie cutter house every single time. He's not a tract builder, and he doesn't, we know what we're talking about. There's builders that's just like this is
Right,
this.
the custom builders.
Yes, right. So in other words, he is a custom or she is a custom builder and interested in specifying and having something that is different from the house next door that he built. And the designer, he doesn't or she doesn't, the builder doesn't have to go and do all the research. So the designer has all of the availability at what you have put together in Revel Woods for all the different options and so forth. And what you're saying though is, because it has to be at the bottom line, you're somehow in this, we're able to look at this builder and say, and you're still going to make money too. I'm not, because if I'm taking the sale from the builder, he or she's not going to give it to me. Like he's like, I'm doing it this way, right? So what you're saying is, and that's loud and clear. If it's this situation and I was making no dollar bills as a designer, and if I work with a builder on it and I've got the builder to see the light on putting in a higher stylized product, value product, better suited product, climate-wise, wear-wise, all the things, and aesthetic on top of it, if the builder can still make their piece, whatever piece I make, I'm in the plus.
Exactly. And a lot of times what we found too with some builders, we've gone to them and said, even just working directly with a builder, which we do in our local markets a lot of times, is look, if because they were buying from like a carpet store, like a local floor, the same place that anybody, off the street would buy from. And we said, look, you could buy at wholesale and save an enormous amount of money. And have a better product. And they weren't even interested in it for the money aspect. It was just, well, this is just what we've been doing, and they just didn't want to make that change. So sometimes it's not even, the incentive might not even be financial. But if it is, my point is we can work with that.
So
whatever that incentive needs to be.
Okay, so I think I was making an assumption that a builder
that they
was
wanted
always,
to make money.
Well, no, that a builder.
It's not always true.
Yeah, right. No. I think I was making the assumption that the builder is always buying wholesale, and you're saying sometimes a builder is buying it from the store on the highway.
Yeah, a lot of times they are, and the reason for that ends up being labor related. So
Okay.
that's the other problem you have to solve, which we do. So it's again, we that was a big piece. I started with that story, but it's been transformative to kind of walk amongst and really understand. Okay, what are the pain points really, right? So for a builder, the pain point you think might be financial, but in many cases it might not be. He might be getting his carpet, tile, and wood from the same place or whatever because they know they've got people that'll just install it for him, and then he doesn't have to think about it. So but if the pain point then is really, I don't want to have to think about it, well, we can solve that pain point too. So it's different than financial. If I offer him money, he's not going to take it because that's not his pain point. So it's just understanding that specific situation. But there are ways around it. And it's like anything in business, right? As long as you understand what problem your customer's having, and you can solve it, then you're gonna be able to move forward.
Okay, so to recap that, you in your research and all the years you and your family been in the business, you know that it's a very real thing that there are builders that are buying the wood retail because it does a couple of things. It makes it easy. It's like I go in, I order my wood floor from them, I order my carpet from them, I order the tile from them, and I tell them the install date, and it all happens. And so I'm not looking for a wholesale resource because then I have to separately contract, I have to go different places, blah blah blah. And this is easy, and I've built it into my pricing, so I don't need, this works for me. And then the second thing you're saying is that sometimes the pain point is I don't want to have to think about if there's new types of wood flooring or new styles. The ones that I've been ordering from this place on the highway are just fine. And so now with Revel Woods, a designer can say, hey, not only can I work it out for you, introduce you to a place, Revel Woods, where you're buying it wholesale, so you're probably going to make more money, but I'm going to take the design and thought process out of it so it's still just as easy for you. A wood floor just shows up in your project. And I can also, through the help of Revel Woods, work and find the installer network that will put this together for you.
Yes, we spent a lot of time building those things out, even since we last recorded. The we made some assumptions early on that were turned out to be incorrect. So we spent a lot of time on trying to address those pain points, and that's again one specific situation. But I do know as a designer, and I have a very good friend who's a designer and a GC who told me this, that if you can come to some of these builders too and say, look, I've got that all taken care of. I got an installer I work with. I've got, whatever it is, like I'm going to take care of this for you. That can be really powerful. And I don't want to say it's universally powerful because
Right.
there are going to be builders that are it's just like anybody, right?
Right.
There's going to be people who just go, yeah, nah,
Never mind. Right.
whatever. Yeah, it's fine. The 70s were a great decade. Why are you trying to move forward? Uh, and I'm not, commenting on my opinion of the 70s, but I wasn't born till 83, but I hear good things. So, yeah, so I think there's going to be, and this is part of like the overall challenge with this. So, everybody's situation is going to be different, and this is something we learned too. Originally, we thought we could just build a robot that sold flooring for us. To be so young and naive, but it does not work that way. But we do know how it does work, and so your situation, listening to this, might be a little different than an example we talk about, or might be a little different than another designer we work with, or might be a little different from the last project you did, or the next project you're going to do. And so this is one of the things we realized is we really needed to be a hyper personalized concierge service for this. And so in doing that, let me just talk about it even from a product standpoint. So if you go on our site, you're going to see about 150, give or take, different floors. That it's a great jump off point. You go through our selector, which if you haven't played around with it, you give us your zip code, what kind of some specs about the project, real basic stuff. Zip code tells us the climate. We will ask if it's going over concrete or if it has radiant heating, because that can change what structure is appropriate. And then we give you a space as a result of that. That's where you see the products. And with that, you're choosing from about 150 different things. We'll pare down to what works technically for that space, which is cool. But
Yes.
it's really important to know that that is not all we have access to. It's not even that it is the tiniest fraction of what we have access to. We have access to literally hundreds of thousands of different floors. And in some cases, something you see on the site is customizable. We could change this, not everything, but it's all specific. But there's some lines where we can change the sheen, we can change the color, we can change the grading, we can change all kinds of things on this that it's not on the site, right? But we could still offer that. And so I say this because when we work with you, we want to know about your project, and we will say, look, here's the site, here's a great jump off point. But if something there doesn't work or it needs to be modified, if it can be, not everything can be, but we'll let you know, and we'll say, we've got some stuff here. It's not on the site. We don't sell it a ton, but it's exactly what you're looking for here. And when we do that, so think of it, the
It's like
analogy I
custom
use,
design furniture.
it is a lot like that. It's almost, I like yours better than what I was going to say, actually. I was thinking like a Chinese restaurant where you've got the menu, but if you know better, if you're one of those people in the know, you can order stuff off the menu,
Right.
and they've got a whole range of things they're going to make you, right? But they're not, that menu, you've been to a Chinese restaurant, that menu is already way too long.
Huge, right.
So, and that's true with ours too, right? Our menu is already way too long, which is why we pare it down. But there's so many things. So for us, one of the things we realized in changing the flooring industry, and we had to build the platform that designers could use, because a designer's workflow is different. Our industry, flooring industry, has always been based on the retail focused model. So we sell, distribution works in a way that sells with retail. These big waterfall display racks, you got to have a flooring showroom. The displays, the samples are huge. We realize designers don't always really work that way. So we've taken really a hyper specific approach. And then even from there, we can get even, and I know it's going to sound overwhelming, but trust me, it's actually quite simple. When a designer wants something, we can change the way the sale happens. We can sell it directly to the client at your markup. We can, and then, you get the money on the back end there, which not every designer likes, but some really like, right? Because we handle the sales tax then. They don't have to worry about reselling it if they didn't want to, or they could. And if it's something that's off the menu, for example, we'll give you a price. We'll say, hey, this thing, it's not on our site. You're not going to find it anywhere. You're not going to be able to Google it and price shop it. We'll protect you. We'll come up with a protected brand name for you if needed. And your price on this is $7.99 a square foot. What do you want to sell it for? Typically, this sells for $9.99 or whatever, right? But like,
Mm,
where do you want to be? And they could say, I want to be at $11.99.
right.
Okay, cool. And they said, well, will you sell it directly to our client? We will. We'll make the invoice for you at $11.99, and
Right.
that's what they'll see. So it's, it really is designed to be flexible, based purely on your, not even just the way you work, but your even project to project could be totally different.
That's a good point because every day of the week you could want to sell. You and your builder buy it, you buy it yourself, you buy, your client buys it, however it is. So, all right. So here's the thing: we took the hardest part off the table first, and that is complicated, and that does going to take conversation with the builder, and it might be, as you said, you've got done a couple of projects and now you've got a relationship and the door is open to start the conversation. But where designers have wide open opportunity is what you mentioned in renovations, right? Where they're usually the first person in. The designer's the first person called and saying, I want to renovate my kitchen. I want to turn my living room and dining room into one big great room. And now the designer is typically in the position of specifying everything and then contracting all the various trades to do the work. And that's a much easier way for a designer to keep the profit for wood flooring in their house, right?
Right. That is a totally different ball game, and it is one that we do. I mean, we do both. I was surprised when we launched. I thought we're really not going to be suited for new construction for the reasons that you had said. That was a complicated issue. What we discovered actually was we do really well there,
Mm.
but we do exceedingly well in remodeling. And as a designer, I think that's really where the big opportunity is, because a lot of people, and this year what we've noticed is, for obvious reasons, maybe not obvious, I don't know. It's been a weird year. I don't know if you noticed, but something happened. What I miss? I just woke up. Uh, but this year everybody's mindset's changed, and they're looking at their homes. They might not want to build a new home. A lot of people are, of course, but a lot of people are staying where they are, and they're saying, how do I make this better? And even when the pandemic ends, and I don't know when you're listening to us, it could be years from now and the pandemic's long over, but I know you remember it. The That mindset's not changing. And I think of people like that lived through the Great Depression. My grandparents, my mother's side, my grandfather lived through the Great Depression, and those people, like, even when the Depression was long over, they were still saving soap slivers, right? And
Right.
mashing them into some sort of weird soap ball, because, you don't know, you
Right.
might run out of soap. I don't know, right? But that, even when times economically got much better, that mindset had been ingrained in
Mm.
them. And I think this pandemic has done something kind of similar to our mindset as well. I don't know, even when this lifts, if people are going to go, I don't really care about my house, I'm not going to spend that much time there.
Mm.
I think that is a huge priority for people. And I think the remodeling industry is exploding right now. The home goods industry is, I mean, there were COVID winners and losers, and home goods was a COVID winner.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I don't think it will continue to explode in perpetuity forever. Probably, and I mean, great for me if it did, but I think that you and I both know that's not how economics work.
Right.
So, but it's not going to go away. That's something that was, and this is, I think, going to be huge for interior design too, because something that, what might have been tough to justify as an expenditure is now almost essential. Like, if I'm going to be stuck here for any reason, I want my home to be a place that brings me joy.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is all kind of a part of this. So I think you're going to see remodeling go forward even more. And as a designer, you have much, much, much more control over that process. I think that was a very long answer for a very short question. But
No, but it's so true, and it's right. I mean, people have invested in their home to a huge number over the last 7, 8 months, and I agree that it's not over. That they will continue to, and it has changed. It's become, if I'm, like, as you said, if I'm going to be here, I want to enjoy it, and this is an opportunity for designer. And what's interesting is that like I made the example of the area rug at the beginning of the show, you would no more think that somebody else is going to pick that area rug. So why do you think that it's okay to let the hardwood flooring come from without of your purview, right? And
Right.
so and what it is that it's one thing to understand that cognitively and say, of course, if I'm going to do a renovation, if I'm going to do a remodel, of course, I want to be the one to pick the hardwood flooring. But the next leap, the next connection is not doing the same thing that you were saying that the big builders do, not walking necessarily into the retail store and just being a bystander and getting paid your hourly rate for the client to work with that resource and contract for that resource and it shows up. The idea is to now make this part of your product buy, just like the way you would specify custom furniture rather than stand next to them at the highway store and pick the sofa. You want to buy that sofa wholesale and sell it at retail. So Revel Woods is making it so that the hardwood flooring aspect is one more product that you're buying at wholesale and selling at retail. Am I right?
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And I want to just color that a little bit with that we understand why hadn't been doing that before because as our industry and for those who don't know me or my background, I've been in the wood flooring industry my whole life. My father started as a contractor. He has risen through the ranks, if you will. He is actually currently serving as chairman of the board of directors for the National Wood Flooring Association. So that's the other piece when we talk to designers and they want to know, hey, well, my installer says, or my builder, my whatever contractor says, I need to have X, Y, Z because that won't work. You can trust where we're coming from because that manual he's citing, we wrote. So, and I mean that literally. My father wrote a lot of the technical manuals, or he was a
Mm.
part of the committee that wrote the manual. He didn't do it by himself, but in the interest of full transparency, but which it was a big thing with us. We're super, almost to a fault. We're super transparent. But I think one of the things I want to color that with is, as an industry, we've not we've had this weird sort of dichotomy where we want to engage the interior designers, but we don't want to incentivize them. So, and I don't mean we meaning Revel Woods, I mean we, the flooring industry. And we want to show you lots of pretty product and say, isn't this product pretty? Please spec this product because it's so pretty. Look how pretty it is. But then beyond that, it's a little bit great. Where do I get it? Well, you can't buy it directly from me, the wholesaler. You can't buy it directly from me, the manufacturer. You have to buy it from, Joe's Carpet and Seed Corn or whatever off of West Segunda Boulevard. That's the closest one in your area. So it's a little bit like you get dumped out to the retailer. And so as a designer, it's like, well, our hope is that that product is so pretty that it will overcome all of the other sort of challenges to it and you'll just like it because it's pretty. Our thinking was honestly from a Revel Woods perspective, like I don't really care which product you buy. We're going to tell you, we're offering stuff that's highly vetted and we can get into that process if you want. But but as far as like whether you picked Serengeti Sunset or Sausalito Sunrise, or I'm making these names up, by the way, I'm really good at naming colors. But I don't care, right? I don't, whatever one's going to work for you. You're the expert in color, not me. But the key for us is that whatever you bought through us, you made money on
Right.
because this is part of this process. So but we as an industry is always kind of blocked out the designer. We don't treat them like retailers. We don't treat them like they're part of the supply chain. We treat them like they're ancillary or they're influencers. And whereas Revel Woods, the idea was, well, if we build the right platform and we service them the right way, could they be as integral a part of the supply chain as they are in the furniture industry?
Mm.
And that's been if you want to know who we are in a nutshell, it's that. So we've got, you want to talk product, we can talk product, but if you're thinking about just how pretty this product is, you're missing the point.
Mm-hmm. Right. No, you are through the platform that you've created, through the concierge service that you provide, you are empowering the interior designer who either does or does not have experience with hardwood flooring on the education and the information and the tools that they need to be the person in the room who makes the decisions and earns the profit from it. That was the thing that impressed me 2.5 years ago. It was, I could literally imagine having almost no, well, myself personally, absolutely no experience in hardwood floor. I could see that I actually could do that. And so we talked about this before. I'm the kind of person that sells first and asks questions later, right? So window treatments, oh, do you want, back in the day, I want that drape to push a button and it's motorized, and it's like 1980. And I'm like,
Right.
and I'm saying to myself, if somebody can think of it, then somebody can probably do it. I'm like, sure, we can do that. Like
Right.
the answer is yes, and go find the information, right? And so, but that's what I love, is that there's enough there that a cowboy like myself can just visualize doing it, but you actually are backing it up with all of the education and the information and the language and the tools and the installer network and all of that, so that when I do either cowboy it, I have somebody behind me that I can deliver, or if I'm a more thoughtful person and I want the information and I want to learn it first, it's not me going into a hardwood store floor on the boulevard and saying, hey, I'd love to specify hardwood floor. Could you give me a little primer on it? And the guy looks at you like, not a chance. Like, what are you talking
Right.
about? Like, you know what I'm saying? Even if you were saying to that guy, I want to buy it from you. It's not an open dialogue. It's not the same. And you are breaking that door down. And it's almost like as if when Kravit will organize their studio tours for IDS or ASID and the designers get to go, it's like when you can go behind the curtain and understand how a product is made, how it's developed, how it's brought to market, it makes it so much easier for you to sell that product. And then when you add the layer on it that you are not just educating designers, but you're enabling the channel distribution to go from wholesaler you to them designer and make the money on it, that's the icing on the cake, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, you've nailed it. I mean, it really, at its core, that's effectively what it is. Now, how it does it is almost, we built it to be so flexible that it really depends on what you need. Some
Mm-hmm.
designers need big sample boards. Most designers hate big sample boards. It's all, but we can do that. We can do the big ones. We can do the small ones. We engineered sampling in a way that can make it portable, virtual. We can send it to your client. We just sold one for a designer recently. The designer, I think, lives in Chicago. This project was in Maryland. We really tried to break down a lot of those barriers, but I mean, look, there are some technical things. There's going to be some challenges. We're working with a designer now. It's a large project. It's, I think, her fourth one with us. So, uh, which we love, right? So this is one of those things. As I'll preface this story by just saying that one of the disadvantages we've had to overcome is because this is so new for designers, particularly, to enter into a world that had previously been locked away from them. And we have heard designers say, look, I've been doing the work here and my contractor's taking my profits.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, we designed it that way. Not we,
Not you,
Revel
the
Woods,
the
the
hardwood
flooring
flooring
industry. Yeah, we
industry.
designed
Yeah.
it that way. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. It's working. It's worked that way for 150 years. But but there is, it's the hardest project you'll do with us will be your first one because
Mm.
everything's new. And we
Mm-hmm.
know that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got experts they're right there. They're a phone call away. If he hasn't heard from you in a little bit, he'll give you a call. Hey, how's it going with this? Just wanted you to know lead times are starting to stretch a little bit. Where do we need to be at? Like, we don't want you to miss any deadlines. We're constantly keeping an eye on where your project's at, where it needs to be. If there's something funky, we've done architect spec takeoffs, blueprint takeoffs. I will say, just coloring that a little bit, that we do not guarantee 100% accuracy with those, but we will look at them for you, and
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, you're kind of in this ballpark. We're doing stuff that we don't necessarily advertise, but it just depends on what you need. And so one of them, this project is big. It's a high dollar item, but there's stairs in it, right? And so stairs gets a little tricky. And so whatever that is, trim, stairs, we're going to ask about that. What do you need for this? Well, typically, this this part's really hard, and this is the questions you need to ask. And I felt bad. We were talking to this designer. She started to get a little flustered, and I didn't blame her at all because some of this can be with the stairs, particularly.
Hmm.
And it was like, this is a lot, right? But I'm looking at what she spec'd on this, and I was like, you're gonna make over $4,000 on just the flooring in this project. So yes, this part's gonna be a little flustering. However, we're here, we're with you, we're gonna get through this together. Like, tell us where we need to be or what we can help. These are the questions you want to ask. Yeah, it's a little bit more work, but you're staring at a $4,000 check when you're done.
Right.
So it's just important too that I always say that you go into this with eyes wide open
Hmm.
and know that, hey, what you're doing is disrupting an entire industry here when you're working with us. But there's a trade-off to it. Yeah, it's not going to be just push a button and we send you a check. Sometimes it actually kind of does work like that. I love those, but it's not every time.
Right.
But as you do more projects, it gets easier because now you know it, right? Okay, yeah, I've worked with this, I've worked with these guys. I pretty much know this is how it works. This is how the delivery is going to go. This is how whatever it is, right? And then we've had designers who've worked with us 2 or 3 times, and all of a sudden I'll see orders from them, and we didn't even know they had a project. Like, oh,
They're just ordering it and
they just
placing
yeah,
it. Yeah,
they didn't need they
yeah,
didn't need it, right?
right.
So they didn't need the extra help at that point. And so our thing is we don't harass you, but early on, especially, you're going to hear from us all. We'll be back and forth all the time because we're not going to bail on you.
Hmm.
But the idea is once you know what you're doing, we don't, if you need us, we're here. Whatever you
Right.
need. It's all good.
Well, and I love it. Again, the analogy to a designer who is going to go from ordering furniture retail or not even being in the process of ordering, just specifying the furniture but not making the money because the client is going out and ordering on their own, to deciding it's time to learn the furniture industry and it's time to learn how to buy the furniture wholesale and it's time to understand who the players are, what the markups are, what the opportunities are. And that's all one part of it. But then when you actually go to place your first order for custom furniture, it's, oh, right, I just don't pick that one from the catalog. It's, I have to say, oh, what is the construction on the inside? Is it 8-way for, have to hand tied down? Is it down cushions? Is it this cushions? What is the stitching? Is there nail heads? Is it going to have a skirt? Is it going to have a foot? And if it's going to have a foot or a leg, what is the color? Like, it's that, I heard that in there. It's like, once I decide to order hardwood flooring and be part of that wholesale process and really looking forward to making that money on it, it's the next step is the learning curve, but we're accustomed to that learning curve. There's a learning curve in everything we do. And to your point, once you have done one set of stairs and you have to understand all the different details that go into specifying wood for stairs that are different for just a straight up room, what is it? The second time, the third time, and now you're an expert at it. You know you need nail heads on a sofa or you don't. You know you need welting or you don't. It's not all a mystery anymore, right?
Exactly. So there is a learning curve, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in our opinion, we think it's worth it because I mean, I'm looking at we've had times too where our priority is always the designer. And that when we've had people apply for accounts with us that we knew were, I was working with a designer. I knew where the designer was. I got all of a sudden I see like a GC applies in the area that a designer I was just talking to is in, and it's like, huh. Okay, well, I'm not going to approve this account until I know that the designer that I need to know who you are. If
Mm-hmm.
we know about you and your project, we're going to help you through whether it's the stairs, whether it's working with the client, like whatever you need. We'll talk directly to the installer. We'll find the installer for you. And the way we do that actually was one of those things that we had totally wrong initially,
Mm.
and then I stumbled on it and realized that I'm an idiot and the answer was in front of me the entire time. But, it's just, which I'm not too proud to admit, but but the one example too of the loyalty aspect. I know it's a little bit less about the learning curve, but we had a designer just started working with us. Um, didn't really know her super well. We'd had our first kind of conversation. She's like, "Yeah, I might have some projects coming up." Okay, cool. Well, let us know, and we're here from you. We'll check back in a couple weeks. Let me know if you got those jobs. And then out of the blue, we get sales all the time, and we got a sale that was the designer I think was in Texas. Don't quote me on that. And then we got a sale that was like in California or Nevada or something. So not really thinking much about it, but but we didn't know this customer. Like they'd ordered samples and then we sent them some. They just bought. Like there was no. Usually we have some kind of follow up where it's
Mm.
like, hey, tell us about the project. Do you need more samples? What do you need? they just bought, which was like, hey, that's kind of cool. So we followed up anyway, said, hey, this is about the lead time on this. They got to make this product. It's coming. I say all that because she said, oh, yeah, I'm working with this designer that we didn't even know, right? So she didn't put when you sign up for an account with us, you get a series of codes that do different things. We can always make new that, when you purchase, that tells us like this is assigned to this designer or whatever. And that's all kind of fun how that works. But there was nothing attached to this. It was just like a straight, almost a consumer direct sale. So then the reason I say all this, we learned, that you were working with this other designer. So we actually, now that we knew that, even after the sale had been made, we sent the designer a check for what that percentage would have been, just out of the blue. Because it was like, hey, next time let us know. She's like, I didn't know. So I didn't know they actually ordered something. So it was all good. But our point is we are so designer focused that even if we know about it, because we could have easily just said, look, next time make sure she uses your code so we can pay you.
Right.
But it was like, no, this was yours. She was surprised. It was like $1,000 or something, and that was a small job, but still it was like putting on a winter coat, finding $1,000 in your pocket. But so that's all stuff that we've just kind of learned and grown and evolved into as we realize that for projects that designers have flooring in, the designer should be the conduit for that industry. Do we want the designer to replace the flooring store off the highway for somebody who's just looking for flooring? No, you got to call a designer. No, because as a designer, you're not going to want that. That's going to not be a fun experience for you. But for your projects where you're doing the flooring, you need, you being able to control that whole project. The photography is better. You're also more valuable to your client because you're offering more services. I'm going to take care of the flooring. I'm going to take care of, everything from floor to ceiling. That attracts a higher clientele too.
Right. I love it. I love it.
Well, thank you for saying that. We've come a long way on this, and we really do think that as a designer, this is an area where there's just money left on the table here.
Yeah,
with a little bit of work, you could get it.
I agree. I think that is look, there's two main points to me for this conversation. One is that just like in every other aspect of your business, you're actively looking for ways to source things from a wholesale level so that you can earn more money instead of, there are designers who their model is consultancy and they are working hours and getting paid for hours. But if you want to earn more money exponentially, the next way and the way to do that is by making money on product. And so, you're just exactly saying there is a way to do it with hardwood flooring now. And Revel Woods is the company that is invested in figuring out the way for a designer to do it, as opposed to any other person in that channel distribution. They're looking a way for you to do it. And then the other big message of the show is how much support is there. So if you're intrigued by it, you're excited by it, and you're a little intimidated, whether you've been in business 5 years or 15 years, if you've not really been the person who's responsible for the wood flooring on a project more than maybe the one-off guest bedroom or kitchen that you've renovated, it can be daunting to think about that you've got $10, $20, $30, $40,000 worth of product coming in and you're on the line for it. So that component of that hand-holding, that concierge level service, all the questions, all the follow-up, this is what is going to make it so that you can, this can be part of a revenue stream for you. So I think it's awesome, John. I really encourage everybody to go back to the first episode that you were on, because while certain things have evolved and changed as you've learned and you've continued over these last 2.5 years to go to the different markets and the different events and really have sincere conversations with designers and understand what their pain points are, there's a lot from that first episode that still does, talk about the program selector, talk about where you source your product from and your commitment to that. And there's information there that's valuable. That's backstory information. So
it might be interesting to go back and listen to it after this this one just to see what's
Yeah.
changed too.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. But
I think I'm gonna go listen to it now.
the core things are the same. Your values we talked a lot about your values and your sourcing in that show, and those things are the same. And then, so, and I just have to say thank you for being a sponsor of the show. Thank you for sponsoring this episode. Thank you for being a sponsor of LuAnn Live. You know that I just love working with you. Vinny does as well. And your parents, your dad, Craig, and your mom, Catherine. It's an outstanding, thing all the way around. And I'm just grateful for that initial phone call that you made to me all those months and years ago, John.
Well, same. We're obviously big fans of you guys and you and Vin, and it really has been transformative. I don't want to give the impression that everybody who sponsors the show is going to get to hang out with you all the time, but I will say that worth every cent. Beyond that, worth 10 times it. If anyone's listening, that's like a potential sponsor out there, you should do it. Don't think, just do it. Thinking is for chumps. We don't do that. Just jump. Do it. So no, this is what a transformative thing this has been. I've loved watching just your meteoric rise over the last 2.5 years. Has been so exciting for us too.
Well, it's the collaborations. No, it's the
We're not
collaborations.
done.
It's aligning myself with companies like yourself and Mydoma and Kravit and the others, but it's the people behind it. It's not just that. It's the true friendships that have developed and the ways that we depend on each other. How many times have you, Sarah, and myself, sat around and just brainstormed on, different ways? How can we be of more value, more service to designers? What do they need? How are we going to deliver it? What's the pain point, right? And so it's it's all of us.
I haven't been able to see her because the border's closed.
I know. I
Let's
miss
get that
all of
open.
you. I miss all of you.
Same. I know you're only. I think what are you 4 or 5 hours away by car?
Yeah.
So, I know.
Well,
But
LuAnn Live,
if
we're
you
going to
haven't seen
do our
anybody, I haven't
best.
seen my family's like an hour away, and I haven't seen them either.
I know. But at LuAnn Live, we're going to do our best to feel like we're together. So
It's gonna be great.
yes, I'm looking forward to that. Well, John, thank you so much. Big hugs to you and your mom and dad, and looking forward to when we are in real life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what a great guy, right? And so much has changed since we talked to him in 2018. I love, though, that the one thing that hasn't changed is his appetite for improvement. He's more than validated his wild idea, right, to sell direct to you, the designer. All the designers that I've spoken with that have gotten involved in his program, and there's been quite a few, are loving it. And they are seeing it as a nice additional revenue source for their companies. All right. And what's all the fuss about flooring, right? It's crazy that in this day and age, the distribution model is really so old school. And selling direct to a designer, to you, actually is like a mind-blowing idea, right? But why? Why is that so abnormal? All right. And this reason is because flooring has previously been the domain of the builder, right? I think you, designers, have this lingering fear about specifying flooring too. And John is the first one to say that there is a learning curve. You've got to know your stuff, but isn't that the same with everything, right? Well, when I think about all of the things that you've had to learn in order to run a successful project, you got it. Wood flooring is just one more thing, all right? But you can do it. And of course, John knows that he has built in the things that will have your back on this, all right? And he walked us through how to broach the subject with the builder, right? And your clients. With the builder, it can be harder. He understands. I know it too. You may be the one introducing them to this way of doing business. But if you come to the conversation confident, capable, and informed about flooring, and you can bring in the installers, you might just catch the attention of that builder, especially if you're willing to share the commission, right? And we know from our conversations with Brad Levitt that there's a whole new breed of builders out there that really value the expertise of you and what you bring to the projects. So I'm just saying, be the leader, not the follower, right? And buying wholesale from Revel Woods for your own remodel projects is a no-brainer. I mean, a remodel project, right? You're the one controlling all of the moves, right? The client will love that they can rely on you to help them select the right product for their space. And with the training and support Revel Woods provides, you can do it. You can be the designer who also is a flooring expert. As a consumer, it sounds like a great package deal when I'm trying to find the right designer for my remodel and I don't have to also then separately figure out wood flooring on myself, right? All by myself, right? Okay, so you're getting the tools, the training, and seriously, I know that you can pick up the phone and ask any question. The questions are answered by people who know their stuff. And let's face it, this is not the kind of thing that you get in most companies. The thoroughness and the responsiveness of Revel Woods is one of the other outstanding features that separates them from other companies that you might work with, okay? And I love that they also will provide you with presentation samples, okay? And I also personally know that John has picked the brains of many, many, many interior designers. I've watched him do it. I've introduced him to probably 60 or 70% of the designers that he has picked the brains of, okay? Because he's truly interested in always tweaking what they're doing to consistently serve you, okay? So if you have something specific in mind, John has shared that Revel Woods actually has access to more product than is actually pictured on their website, all right? So, but of course, from the website, you can order off the menu. When you order off the menu, Revel Woods will provide you with both your price and your suggested retail. And it also allows you to set your own price that you charge to your client. And here's the clincher. They'll even create a custom name for your selected flooring so you won't get shopped. Love that, right? In the end, Revel Woods has built their business model around making sure that you get what you need to make flooring a profitable component of your project, all right? And that you're able to give your clients exactly the right flooring for their project. I don't know what's there's not to love, personally. You've got the training to become an expert. You're able to give over-the-top service, and it's a new source of revenue for your business. Sounds like a trifecta to me. All right, so I hope that you will be joining us at LuAnn Live. Go to luannlive.com. You will be able to see a little bit of more information about Revel Woods during luannlive.com. And, of course, if you have the 2-day all-access pass or the VIP pass, you will be eligible for the raffle for the prizes that not only Revel Woods is giving, but other sponsors are giving as well. So I hope that you are having a great day. I thank you so much for listening to today's show, and I want to just encourage you to decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.